All right, my food and mood friends, welcome back. Chandra Zas, Zen Odyssey, gut health. Today, I want to talk about nuts. I'll talk a little about seeds, but mostly I want to talk about nuts today. And first, I'm going to start by talking about peanuts. Peanuts are not actually a nut. Peanuts are in the pea category, I believe, in the legumes, I think, and they're not nuts. And it's important to understand this because they're very not shelf stable. So what this means is that they're really prone to fungus, to having fungus in the peanuts, on the peanuts, in the peanut butter. So, and fungus is something that messes with our microbiome and causes overgrowth. So if I know someone actually who ate like really large quantities of peanuts all the time and ended up having actually a pretty serious fungal problem because of it. And so it's really important to understand about peanuts that fungus grows on them. And I am an American. It's when I was living in Israel, I had a lot of people laughing at me because I got to a point where I was like really craving peanut butter, and peanut butter is like known to be a very American thing. And so I do still eat peanut butter, but I don't eat it regularly, and I really make sure it's from a really good source. I make sure that it's been processed and packaged well. If it's processed and packaged well and it doesn't have fungus on it, then peanut butter, peanuts are not necessarily an unhealthy thing, but it's the fungus you want to watch out for. The other piece that you need to know about nuts in general, and this applies to peanuts and peanut butter, but it also applies to all nuts, is that nuts in general tend to be not the most shelf-stable food on the shelf. So all of the nuts have some susceptibility to fungal growth on them. Peanuts are the worst. I think the softer nuts like cashews are close there with it. We like to buy our cashews in bulk from Costco, and they're organic and they're raw. And sometimes you can look in the package and you can see that they're a little bit gray and they're a little bit funny colored. And so when we see that, we don't buy those nuts because that means that they're not fresh. They have some growth on them. And honestly, if you actually taste it, you can taste the fungus. You can taste the little bit of off. Like a really good raw, fresh cashew has a very different taste than a fungus incubated cashew. Which brings me to another really important point of the importance of buying raw nuts. So if you're going to eat nuts, I highly, highly encourage you to buy raw nuts. If you love roasted nuts, you should know that the roasted nuts are a lower quality nut because when you roast them, and then especially when you cover them in oils and sugars and salts, you really cover up any of that bad taste. So the more heavily flavored nut is the lowest quality of nuts. So when people are packaging and selling nuts, the highest quality nut is the raw nut. So, and then it goes from there, like then you have like the maybe just dry roasted, that's probably your second best quality. And then the bottom, you have the ones that have the oils and the salts and the flavorings, because companies can get away with selling those nuts and people will buy them because they taste so good, because what we feel in our mouth is the sugar and the salt and the oil, which all taste really good, and we don't taste the rancid nuts. So if you're gonna eat nuts, which there's no problem with, I mean, in my opinion as a gut health coach, there's no problem with eating nuts as long as your gut is in a certain good shape. If your gut is in a really bad shape, you might need to be on a gut repair protocol that would not include nuts for the beginning until your lining heals and until your gut microbiome is strong. But once you're like in a decent place with your gut, then there's no problem with nuts, as long as you're not getting fungus coming in on those nuts into your body, because we don't want fungus growing in our bodies. We want to really limit the bad guys that we put into our microbiome, which we put into our mouth. So you want to really be aware of what quality of nuts, and buying raw is the easiest, and then just really looking at the nuts, looking at, do they look like they're fully shaped? Do they look like they're a little funky color? And tasting it. So if you do want roasted nuts, then buy the raw ones and roast them yourself, and then put your own flavorings on them. Then you know that you're starting with a really good, high quality nut. My favorite nuts, I really love cashews. I have a really incredible cashew mate latte recipe that I think it's one of the best things in the world. We actually had a dream that we wanted to create a cashew mate latte cafe on wheels. Like, that's how much I actually don't drink cashew mate lattes anymore, although I would like to start again, because I started doing intermittent fasting, and that was like my favorite drink in the morning. But what I was doing was I was taking raw cashew butter and putting it in the blender with mate, and it created this really lovely, creamy latte. It was really, really fun, really, really tasty. But it requires a really high quality cashew butter. I was actually buying it on Amazon by the 5-gallon tub. So that is one way, and you store it in the fridge, which stops the fungus from growing. So that's one way that you can eat cashew butter. I also really love, and you can also cook with cashew butter. Cashew butter is a really wonderful, gut-friendly, creamy source of ingredient that you can cook some really yummy dishes with, or make cashew mate latte with. I'll put the recipe to my cashew mate latte in this below, wherever you're seeing or listening or reading this. I'll put the recipe there. It's a really amazing recipe. My other favorite nuts to eat, I love eating Brazil nuts. I love eating pecans and walnuts. Although pecans and walnuts, you have to watch out. If your immune system is a bit compromised, it can provoke the enzymes that have to do with herpes flares. I've seen a lot of people also taking too much lysine can do it, and also specifically raw walnuts and raw pecans can provoke a flare. So if that's you, then be mindful of those two nuts. And I really love seeds. And one of the things I really love about seeds is they actually tend to be a lot more shelf stable. They tend to be easier to store for longer. They're really great for road trips. I love taking pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds on the road with us, because they're a great snack, and they're also really shelf stable. Speaking of shelf stable and road trips and food not in the fridge, we keep all of our nuts. I'm looking at my freezer. We keep all of our nuts in the freezer. We keep our walnuts, pecans, Brazil nuts, cashews, all in the freezer in order to keep them from having a fungal overgrowth, because they are sensitive to the environment and to going rancid. So I would highly encourage you to keep all of your nuts in the freezer. Our seeds, I'm looking up at our cupboard where our seeds are. Our seeds are not in the freezer, so we don't have to keep our seeds. Pine nuts, I'm actually not sure if they're considered a nut, but pine nuts are also one of the very sensitive nuts. I don't think it's a nut. I have a feeling it's not a nut, but we do keep our pine nuts also in the freezer because they're sensitive. So buy all of your nuts and seeds raw, roast them if you want to yourself, then you know you have a high quality ingredient. Really check at how they look and how they taste. Trust your taste buds. Start practicing really tasting a nut and feeling does this taste good or does it taste off? If it tastes off, it's your body telling you that it's not good for you. It's got some little critters on it that doesn't serve your gut microbiome or your health. And I do have some peanut butter once in a while. And if you're going to eat peanut butter, I really encourage you to eat it organic, raw, or you can also have it roasted, because roasted is way better. But you want to look at the label of the peanut butter, and you want to make sure it doesn't have other oils and it doesn't have sugar. You really want to make sure it doesn't have any kind of hydrogenated or man-made oils, because this is just not good for our bodies. And I do have one of my favorite nut butters. I really love the Nutso. It's got 7 nuts in it, and it is such a yummy treat. I really love Nutso butter. The only problem with Nutso butter is that it has chia seeds, and it has a lot of stuff that actually I've noticed sticks to my teeth. Excuse me. And having my little one and being really aware of her teeth and how important it is to keep her teeth free of food. I have actually stopped buying it because I feel kind of weird about having something that I don't give her. I'm kind of like, when she gets older, I'll buy some more nutso butter and we can share it and then, clean our teeth. But it's really important for kids to keep their teeth clean, and the nutso butter does stick to the teeth a little bit. So that's another side note on, it's really cool to apply all of this gut stuff and teeth microbiome stuff to kids. To my little one, it's really, really cool. Anyway, that was gut health and nuts and a little bit of seeds and some best practices for your gut health and your nut consumption. And have a beautiful day, and thank you so much. Ciao.